Well, I also went to go see this with my dad, and he agreed with Ralph Nader. He said he was very like a respectful man, and he said he did think he said we shouldn't be so focused on all the sports and everything, but we should know more about like the politics, like who's running, what do they stand for, what do they believe in, and I believe that, you know, like we are so focused on sports and clothes and all that, but that's not really what matters in the long run. It's what matters is like how we're treated, how our country is, what you should, like what's right and wrong, like really.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ralph Nader.
Thank you, thank you very much, Matt Boss, for that very nice introduction about what confronts us in our country. And it's very nice to be here. These books here are all going to be donated to the library for those of you who are interested. They represent a reality that is often not studied, either in high school or college or graduate school. Excuse me. And the reason for that is that they analyze power. They analyze the concentration of power, the misuse of power, the valiant challenge through our history where people, whether they're farmers or workers or people in the inner cities, took on the rapacious power brokers and the greed of the ruling classes. We know that every society has ruling classes. Ours is no exception. But because of the operation of ordinary people in our history at their highest moments of being extraordinary people, we have brought some of the blessings of justice and liberty to our people today. But these have been under severe attack, as Mr. Bach pointed out, especially in recent years. And there are very important reasons why that's the case. The weakening of the trade union movement is a perfect example. We were arm in arm with trade union people in Washington on environmental and consumer issues, not just on issues of worker health and safety or standards in the workplace or minimum wage. The labor movement was the major countervailing force in the 20th century against relentless aggregation of corporate domination, from New York's Wall Street to Houston's oil corridor. I want to address my remarks today excuse me, to the students here, but I think the people from the community who are good enough to come will be interested in what I have to say as well. But I have always believed that the worst kind of censorship is self-censorship. We are all induced from time to time to censor our real thoughts, to keep them within ourselves. Censorship thrives on an aggregation of millions of people censoring themselves. Don't talk to your neighbor about foreign or military policy. It's too controversial. Have harmonious discussions in barbershops and diners, but never talk about the things that really are affecting you, other than family illness. Never talk about what's really on your mind. Let the pollsters figure out what questions they don't ask you, so they can ask you the questions that the politicians want you to answer, often with minimum information. High school students are perfectly equipped to be citizens as high school students. They don't have to wait until they graduate or graduate from college. They are not citizens in waiting. They happen to be unique kinds of citizens. They have a high level of idealism. They're not afraid of modern technology. They know how to use it. They think that they can improve the world, but they want to have us, who are a few years older, help show them how. I don't pander to high school students or to middle school students. I talk to them and with them as if they're adults. Their minds are often narrowly informed because of the way we've allowed them to grow up, narrowly. We have encouraged them to live more in virtual reality of the internet than we have of living in reality. There's a reason why books have been written, Leave No Child Inside. Youngsters today are estranged from nature as any generation in history, including the nature around where they live. But youngsters have a moral sense. Sometimes it's wonderful to behold. They don't have axes to grind. They don't have vested interests. And when they see things that are wrong, they'll say they're wrong. Their first experience with excluding reality is when they start labeling themselves as conservatives, liberals, Republicans, Democrats. When they do that, they fall into the hands of the adults who have similar labels, who screen out great amounts of reality on the ground that is not in accord with the ideology or the political agendas that are behind these labels. So I'm speaking with you today as young citizens in this country who should aspire to be the leaders in this country for the advancement of justice, which one of your early senators, Daniel Webster from Massachusetts, called the great work of human beings on earth. That is justice. The great work of human beings on earth. You should strive never to trivialize your talents, no matter how much Raytheon pays you, no matter how much the big banks may pay you, no matter how much the big energy companies may pay you. If you trivialize your talents so that outside of work you're not an active, engaged citizen, do you know what the ancient Greeks called non-engaged, inactive citizens? Idiots. That's the derivation in ancient Greece. It has a different meaning now. If you don't fulfill your citizen duties by spending a little time every week, every month, every year at your neighborhood, community, town, city, state, region, nation, world level, you pick your issues, you pick your problems, you pick your causes, you will lose out on one of the greatest gratifications of living on earth. You will not develop certain kinds of talents that you have within you. Your profession may develop certain talents, obviously, your occupation, but your civic talents will not be developed. And your civic talents represent the moral civic values that are the most important substructure of our purported civilization. Unfortunately, you are also a marketplace for corporate hucksters. As people in their teen years, you represent billions of dollars of purchasing power, either directly or through your parents. The targeting of this purchasing power has used the smartest applied social science techniques, psychological and otherwise, to narrow your quest for information about what you're being sold and to make you think you're independent but to make you, in effect, a consumer in servitude. Not for all products, but for junk food, for junk drink, for violent programming, for savage video games. These and other products of commercialism illustrate what happens when commercialism is supreme over civic, humane values. Every religion in the world has taught its adherents, do not give too much power to the merchant class. The merchant class fulfills an important function, but in the form of giant multinational corporations who have no allegiance to any country other than to control them or ship their industries abroad to serf labor dictatorships, as has happened with industries in this state or Commonwealth. There are no boundaries. Corporations become our masters when they were chartered in the early 19th century here in Massachusetts to be our servants. Corporations are not human beings. They are artificial legal entities to allow capital to expand with minimal risk to the investors, called limited liability. Over the decades, these corporations have perfected a degree of concentrated economic and political power where they can escape U.S. jurisdiction for tax purposes and other purposes and still benefit from U.S. services and military protection. These corporations now control the vast number of small businesses through franchise agreements that are very one-sided, fine print, and because these giant corporations command the heights of Wall Street and the Federal Reserve, the banking industry, the energy industry, the pharmaceutical industry, almost all major industries are concentrated at the top. They've developed a system where then when they make a lot of money, they keep it. When they lose money, we, the taxpayers, bail them out. Most recently, the Wall Street crash in 2008-9, that unemployed 8 million workers, looted or drained trillions of dollars of pension money and mutual fund money, enriched the guys at the top, who should have been prosecuted and put in jail after conviction, and who even tanked their own investment banks and brokerage firms, sending them to Washington, hobbling for massive taxpayer bailouts by the same workers and pension holders who they looted a few months and years earlier. I do this description because I want the students to begin developing a sense of factual indignation. It's not enough that you know about injustice in your head. You have to have fire in your belly to break your routines. Do not allow yourself to be trivialized or commercialized or manipulated, so you can think for yourself and prepare yourself for leadership in our country of all kinds while you're a student. I want to give you 3 vignettes because one of the characteristics of your generation that is communicated to us again and again by people all over the country is you have shortened attention spans, more than usual. But when you're twittering, I guess you do have a short attention span. When you're text messaging, yes. If you don't read enough outside of class, and you only read pulp fiction, Stephanie Meyer's, Harry Potter, and you don't read classical fiction outside of class, you don't read